Please stay with us as we move to our next update. Dubai's main airport, the world's busiest for international traffic, has partially resumed operations after a temporary suspension due to an aerial interception during attacks from Iran. The airport confirmed that some flights are now operating out of both Dubai International Airport and Dubai World Central Al Maktoum International Airport. Passengers are advised not to travel to the airport unless they have received confirmation from their airline about their flight, as schedules continue to change. Meanwhile, Emirates, the Middle East's largest airline, suspended all flights to and from Dubai until further notice following the aerial interception. The suspension of flights follows ongoing drone attacks that have targeted various locations in the UAE, including the airport. In Baghdad, a drone attack on the airport complex, which houses a military base and a US diplomatic facility, resulted in a fire and further security efforts. Ambulances have been dispatched to the scene to handle any casualties. And joining us again, we have Collins Chong-Yu-Keat, who's a Foreign Affairs, Security and Strategy Analyst in Kuala Lumpur. Collins, this economic attack is obviously a strategy used by Iran. They have caused, there's been massive disruption to oil and gas production from that region. Of course, the Strait of Hormuz handles about 20% of the world's oil traffic. We're also seeing massive effects on tourism. Of course, we heard just now about the effect on the Dubai airport. How much is this economic factor affecting this conflict? Did the United States foresee this factor going into this war, or do you think it's been a surprise to them?
Well, this remains as the expected outcome. Of course, all these calculations have already been factored in by the US and, of course, by the Iranians themselves. And we've seen how the disruptions in terms of also the threats and risks to the energy sector, as well as infrastructure, as well as supply chain disruptions. All these have been, of course, the expected outcome. So no one in their in their right kind of mind will take this, will be surprised by all these fallout implications. Of course, these are all expected outcomes, especially taking into account the geographical presence of Iran and, of course, the strategic trade route, of course, along the Strait of Hormuz. But we have seen how, as I've stated, indications are there, in terms of how the current, situation, in terms of how the Iranians are not trying to send a different messaging. In terms of also, they have also recently stated that there'll be no, blockade in terms of the passage to the Strait of Hormuz, and that also coupled with this, stance with regards to the response system against the Gulf nations. And of course, we have seen how these economic and energy implications have already affected global markets, and President Trump is well aware, and he has also acknowledged the repercussions on the, of course, on the American economy in terms of on the market, in terms of prices, inflation affecting the American people. So these are all expected, but of course, in terms of cost-benefit calculations being done, he has stated that this needs to be done now. And one of the factors also we've seen how, in terms of the asymmetry of capacity in terms of munitions, whether the US is in for protracted conflict in terms of how the supply of munitions, the supply of interceptors or air defenses, and how the ultimate factor is being considered before the US decided to strike, which is, as Marco Rubio has stated, that the Iranians are building up to 100 missiles or drones per month, while less than 10 interceptors or defense systems are being built. And if this goes on, then of course the asymmetric warfare will be on the hands of Tehran, and hence that's one of the factors being considered. But and this is only like a week old, and it remains to be seen in terms of the sustaining capacity on both sides. And but of course, these energy and economic implications have already been factored in by all sides, and hence we have seen these initial fallouts.
Collins Chong-Yu-Keat, thank you so much for joining us today in the studio. It has been a pleasure to hear your thoughts. Now to Latin America, Venezuela's acting president Delcy Rodriguez has said that the diplomatic relations with the United States had been